Hello and welcome. I'm Alex Grodnick, and this is Moving Up, a podcast about secrets to success, struggles along the way, and life in general. Today on the pod, Tracey Davies, the CEO of Money 2020. It's only fitting that after doing all these podcasts at Money 2020, we hear from the CEO herself, and we have a deep dive into the conference business, what drives people to come here, what they look for, and what keeps them coming back. Super interesting convo. Tracey, welcome to the podcast.
Thank you for having me. It's exciting.
Yeah, it's only fitting that we're at Money 2020. I'm doing all these podcasts. Got to have the woman who runs Money 2020.
Yeah, well, I'm honoured. I've only done one podcast before. It's very exciting. This is a big one, I hear.
Well, yeah. So I guess let's get into the early days of Tracey's career. Are you thinking you're going to run conferences when you're grown up?
No.
Yeah, exactly.
Who would want to do that? No, that would be crazy. No, completely different. My background is I did a year in fashion when I left university. I have a history degree, and it wasn't for me. But so most of my career has been spent in the media. So most of my career is sales. And then as I progressed through sales, I worked on national newspapers. I'm a Brit, you might tell from my accent. So I worked on national newspapers, then I moved into magazines. Do you remember those? The sort of non-digital sort of things. And I moved up and then became general manager, managing director, and now president of Money 2020.
Right, so the beginning part of your career is well in fashion. And as you said, that industry wasn't for you, or the job wasn't for you. What was it?
Both, I think. It's fabulous. Let me not, I don't want to diss the fashion industry. It's a fabulous global industry. But no, I think sales was my calling.
Sure.
And so I got into sales. Like a lot of people, I fell into it, happened to be quite good at it, and then moved through the ranks into management.
You're talking about selling ads in these various media companies.
Selling ads, and then I moved on to custom solutions and selling bigger custom solutions, moving through that way. And that obviously ties in with a lot of what you do in events, because if I look at Money 2020 and the kind of stuff we do, you've only got to look at our show floor here. You've got lots of really exciting activations like the Garden, where you can have your meeting sitting on a swing. You've got the Connections Lounge that we work with PayPal. We're used to creating lots of exciting experiences with our customers, and so that's a lot of the background I had in sales, is creating things for customers to help them showcase their brand. And that's a lot of what we do here, is help brands show up in different ways, because there's a lot of exciting brands in this industry. So most of my time was in sales, and then I quite early on became a GM, a general manager, MD, and then I ran media brands. And then as I was running media brands, a lot of media brands, as you'll know, have events. So they'll have the written form, they'll have digital, they'll have print, and they diversify. And you diversify so that you have different revenue streams, but also so you can connect with your customers. So then I started to run a lot of events. When I came to Money 2020 in 2016, it's the first time I'd run just an events business. And, it's a lot of fun. It's a lot of hard work, but it's a lot of fun.
Right, so what's that like? Obviously the whole thing kind of revolves around sales, but
yeah.
Moving from the selling of you're selling, you have the inventory, versus moving to the company side where you're buying the inventory.
Buying the inventory in which way?
So it sounds like you're when you're working for a magazine or a newspaper, you have a placement and you're selling that placement to a big brand. And now you're talking about working really closely with brands. Is it all synergistic, or are there two sides to it?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's very similar actually, because if you think of what we do at a show, we have content. Our product here is the 450 plus speakers that are going out on those stages. That's our product. That's what people come to do here. They come to see the speakers and hear the sessions, and they come to connect. I mean, they are the two reasons that people come. I'm coming to learn, I'm coming to connect, and usually people want to do a bit of both. And then you have the way the brands show up. So you have sort of different dynamics going on when you're running a show, but it's quite similar to magazines and websites, right, where you're writing articles and people are consuming them, and you have advertising. I mean, the structure of the model is very similar. It's just you do it all in a very condensed 4-day period.
Yeah, I mean, this is it seems like so many things in life have become where there's one of everything now. So every town has maybe one bookstore and one conference. Everything has moved into having a mega or something. And you guys are the fintech mega. I mean, this is like fintech summer camp here. Come here. It's so great.
I love that.
Yeah, doing this in Vegas because I go to all these conferences in San Francisco, and they're fine during the day, and then as soon as it hits 5 o'clock, everyone just evaporates because like they can't. They're going home. Here, it's like you put everyone on a
held captive in Las Vegas
on an island, and it's like here, become friends, learn, mix, mingle, and so it's really
I think
cool.
you pick up on a really important point. You know, what Money 2020 did right at the start, back in 2012, we're now 8 years old, was about ecosystem. And that's because the way money's changed is, you know, where it's moved from cash to obviously more digital, everyone has to work together. That's how this industry works. You know, banks and payments, and who would be, you know, look at the whole Calibra piece, and then, you know, we're hearing, you know, you've got Apple Pay working with X, and you've got, you know, PayPal working with Y, and, you know, that's how this industry works.
Right.
You know, money's too big. You know, they all partner and work together. And back in 2012, there were lots of siloed shows. There's one for the banks, or there's one for the payments, there's one for the startups. What Money 2020 did is bring that together. As you say, in summer camp, I love that term, we call it ecosystem. We brought the whole ecosystem together in one place for 4 days, so that those cross-border as such, but, you know, cross-industry conversations could happen, and those partnerships could be born. And that's still what we do today. So that ecosystem, and obviously the ecosystem has changed. Look at the opening morning, or the opening keynotes yesterday, Monday morning here. You had Uber, followed by Facebook, or Calibra, and followed by PayPal. I mean, you've got big tech platforms there. I'm not sure it would have looked like that back in 2012. PayPal would have been, but not Uber, obviously, and maybe not Facebook then. So I think we are the ecosystem. I think I might change that to summer camp. I think that sounds a fun term, but that's what we are. We bring everyone together under one roof for 4 days.
Love it.
4 crazy days.
Yeah. So I'd love to hear a little bit about, like, you know, how this conference comes together. I mean, it's like such a big undertaking, right? And probably, I mean, I'm sure you're starting already thinking about next year and the year after. Like, what's your team like? How did the sales work for this? How do you kind of create the demand so that everyone has to come to this?
Yeah, that's a big question.
Yeah.
And obviously, we don't just do USA. Vegas is 8 years old, but I also do Europe, that's 4 years old, and I have Pan-Asia show from Singapore. So we're doing 3 of these a year. Now, Vegas is the older one and the biggest. So it's an all year round operation, team of about 80, based in New York, London, and Singapore, and some in Hong Kong, actually. So it's all year round. Now, we are Tuesday of the show. Customers are already booking their spaces for next year here. So that's a traditional thing that we do. So customers have been since yesterday morning booking their slots. So you'll have got people booking for next year, because obviously they want to make sure they've got their prime locations to capture the customers and meet existing customers and new customers. So it's just constant. The idea that we go away and have a sort of a sleep now till Christmas, I'm afraid, is a bit of a dream. I think events used to be like that, but it's all year round. So we're already rebooking delegates for next year. They're buying their passes, some of them, and then we'll be opening in December for next year's show. So it's year round. We'll already be thinking about speakers for next year. So events is hard work. It's a lot of fun. That we have a great time here, and we'll all be a little bit sad tomorrow when the show closes, because you work so hard for it.
Yeah, it's like you're launching a product and then
and then it's gone.
Yeah.
I mean, you will be amazed at how quickly the show comes down, and that's sad, because we enjoy it. They're really hard work, but we work all year round. And we are taking daily polls from customers while we're here about what's working, what's not working. And we're already forming our plans for next year, so it's pretty relentless but a lot of fun.
Yeah, I'm sure. So Tracey, it seems like a big trend in the world these days is like people searching for a connection, right? Because we're also disconnected. So I mean, probably great time to be in the events business, but like I said, it's like things are probably becoming more competitive than ever of competing for that. So like, how do you see the market?
Yeah, it does become more competitive, and there's lots of ways to connect. But it's funny, I was talking to a customer this morning who was saying that they met someone here that they've been trying to meet for a long time, and they bumped into them in Vegas. Because look, there are a lot of digital channels. We all use digital channels. I use every digital channel going in order to attract customers and get my message out there. But I still think you can't replace face-to-face contact. As humans, we want to connect.
Yeah.
And, of course, the conference calling's been around forever, but I don't know about you, I sit on a ton of conference calls. It's not as great as seeing my team in New York face to face. So I think events have a really dynamic and bright future, but you do have to work harder. So, no longer can you get customers turning up at an event and just off you go, fill your boots, thousands of people here. We really have to think about how we help customers connect. They expect that. They pay, our pricing is $2,500, $3,000 for passes, depending on when you buy. People want the return on investment. We all do. It's natural. So we have to work hard to make sure we deliver. So some of the things that we do, we've now developed the functionality in our app where you can book meetings through the app. Now, we launched that last year and we saw really good adoption. So I think about something like 700 or 800 meetings were done through the app. When we came on site, we were north of 3,000 meetings already pre-booked. There are 4,500 as of now, I think, and it's going up by the minute. And, so we are helping customers connect using digital in a physical event. So I think the bringing together digital and physical is really important. And there's a lot of serendipity. You bump into someone in the Starbucks line or whatever, that happens.
Yeah.
I mean, it's obviously not serendipity because everyone here is in the money.
We like to think it's serendipity.
Yeah, it's managed serendipity. But the app is AI powered. It's learning who you're connecting with. It sees which meetings you're making, and it learns more people like this, or the clever AI stuff. I'm no AI expert. So you have to really invest in those kinds of things. We have also physical meetups, where people come along at this time. We do a lot for first timers. It's quite a big show, and people get a bit overwhelmed about how do I find this and what should I do and can you give me some tips. So we now do a lot of programs for first timers to help them orientate when they're here. So I think it is competitive. There are lots of ways to connect, and you have to work hard to make sure that customers get their value. Every product and every brand has to do that.
Right.
We are no different, and there's some of the ways that we've looked at them.
Yeah, and I mean this year especially, but every year I find some of the panels and speeches so interesting. I'm like, really amazing stuff. I'm a podcast addict, obviously, and I listen to all these guys on podcasts, but then you come here and maybe it's the face-to-face thing, but maybe it's the person who's asking them questions. They're always so good. So like, where does the content come from? Like, do you have a content team that
Yep.
comes up with who's coming and how they're coming? And
Yep. Each show has a dedicated team in the market. So I have a team in New York who, and they're talking to customers, they're researching, we're coming up with a theme. So before Christmas, we'll be coming up with what do we think are the big questions, what are the themes. They have thousands of conversations. Then we open for submissions. So people submit to say, I'd like to speak, this is what I'd like to speak about. We go through all of those. And gradually we whittle that down and that we've got what we think are the key questions that people need answering, and then we put the program together. But there's 450, 460 speakers here.
Yeah.
It's a phenomenal range of content in 5 or 6 different theatres. You've got the sort of pop-up theatres in the open air. You've got the Inspiration Peak stage, which is what we traditionally know as keynote stage or main stage. There's thousands of chairs in there. It's a big old
Thanks
range.
for listening.
And,
if you like moving up, the
that's
best way you can
proper
support us
show.
is by telling
really
your friends,
exciting
helping us
production.
grow.
This
is my third
and
leaving us a review.
About
how many people come to this every year?
It's north of 10,000.
More than 10,000 people. And yeah, I'd never been to a conference like this before. I remember my first year, and I went back home and I told my friends, I'm like, oh my, you've never seen so many people, and like, you don't know what breakfast for 10,000 people looks like, and that big, these are the complexities of everyday
food and coffee and content. They are the most important things in it. Food, coffee, content. And sometimes, depending on the night before, might be coffee, food, content, obviously. We had one of our big parties at Omnia last night, and so there's a lot of people needing some coffee this morning, I think, to get going. But yeah, it's a massive food production because we provide breakfast every day, we provide lunch every day, we provide food all day long. And we want people to have a great time. We want them to come here and want to be here.
Yeah. And
food and that community aspect. And we've created something this year called the garden with the swings, and you can sit in there and have food, and it's about having a great time. This is a fun industry, and there's a lot of really exciting things going on with money, and we want people to spend time here and enjoy it, and they do, and food is part of that experience. And our food production is is big.
Right. So everything you're describing about it, the food, the coffee, the content, and bringing people together. I mean, it's all about just delighting users.
Yeah, I mean, we set out to do that. I mean, live events are unpredictable. We can't delight everyone all of the time.
The weather was not good for the
pool
party.
I had a party without a pool. So, exactly, that's, Sunday morning we were faced with a weather situation here in Nevada and Las Vegas where the winds were up and the pools were closed and, we couldn't do it. Now, what are we going to do? Are we going to sort of start crying? And no, you have to find a plan. And so we moved the whole party down to where the keynote stage, the Inspiration Peak stage was, and we just switched it up. So it was a pool party without a pool. And I think everyone had a great time. And, they stayed seemingly late into the night. So now they loved it so much, they're telling me they want us to do that every Sunday, and then they want us to add a pool party on. So, but live events are unpredictable, and you have situations like that, and you just have to adapt.
Yeah, I'm okay as long as you had. This year there was a waffle cone filled with macaroni and cheese. And,
I had that,
and fried
and
shrimp on top of it.
Yeah, that was good.
I was like, wow, oh my god.
Someone said to me we should just be a food festival. Maybe we should just drop the fintech and just do the food, because the food is always so good at Money 2020.
Well, that's your product expansion fee.
Exactly, we're going to become a food festival with a bit of fintech. But the food is good, and it comes back to it's people have choices about how they do business and how they connect. And my job is to make sure that they choose Money 2020. And we invest a lot of money to make sure that it's a fun experience, that we have, it's not all about food. We have great speakers and, things like we talked about, the apps to help people connect and do meetings. We've got, phenomenal expo floor with booths of really exciting companies. You have to do everything. There's not one thing. You have to have great evening things. You have to have a great app. You have to have great it's just, you have to get everything
attention
right.
to the details, or the way people move through the conference and the way things are set up and the look. I mean, it's just like an app. I saw the demo for the Uber app, and like the numbers shake when you touch it, and it's just these little tiny things that make it a delightful experience.
And look, we don't get it right all the time. Right. I'm not going to set out and tell you that we're perfect. We're not. And our customers are very vocal, and they tell us. And this year we've implemented. We're surveying our customers constantly during the day. They can rate all of the sessions, and then every night we are polling them to say, right, what did we do today? What was good today? What wasn't good? We sit down as a leadership team every night on site, and we go through how was today. What worked, what didn't work, what do we got to get right for tomorrow? We're reviewing what the customer's now telling us in real time, and we're trying to fix it. So, we had some feedback that it felt a bit cold in some of the areas, so now we're adjusting the temperatures, but as we know, some people like it hot, some people like it cold, but we have to listen, and we will do more research per show. You have to listen to the customer, because if we don't, they just won't come back. They won't buy the tickets, they won't buy the booths, and there are plenty of events that have fallen by the wayside, so we need to make sure we do that.
Tracey, last question here. We've talked about the attention to detail and delighting users, and the kind of tailwinds of the connection, but how do you continue to stay top of mind and to stay relevant in this business? And what's the future of the conference?
That's a really good question. I think it is probably a summation of what we've talked about. We have to focus on detail. Let's remember why people come here. They come here to learn, and they come here to connect. They are the two overriding things. So we always come back to, how does that help our customer connect? And is that good learning? I.e., is it the right speakers, the most topical speakers, the best speaker? Have we got the right topics? Are we covering? Are we adding new stuff? So we focus on those two things. Now, obviously, the experience goes around it, but we've talked a lot about the shrimp in the cone that I know was your personal favourite. So we just have to focus on the two things that deliver ROI. Are they meeting the right people, and are they learning about the future of money? And if we do those things and we just double down on those, I hope that we'll be here for a long time.
Yeah, well, when I think of conferences, this is the only one that I get excited about coming to. So really great job. Thanks so much for sitting down here. I wish you guys
very welcome.
Thank you.
Continued
success here, and really just thanks again.
It's been a pleasure. Thank you so much.
Okay.
Thanks for listening today. If you like moving up, the best way you can support us is by telling your friends. Thanks.